Are you looking for land in all the wrong places? Did that make you think of a song? Then you're in the right place. Let's talk about it today. Welcome back. It is Better Together Homestead Live. I'm Kelly, and this is Bo. And Bo's back is hurting today. If you are also over 40 by like a couple of months, your back feels like an 80-year-old. Also, welcome.
9 months.
Welcome.
40 in 9 months.
40
and a half.
So as you're jumping on, we would love to hear from you guys. We're going to talk today about just the questions that we get asked most often. Where do we find land? How do we find land? How did you guys find your land? We're on 7 acres in Central Texas. It's unrestricted, and we built a shed into a house and put it on that 7 acres. So we're helping people like you find your property, get out of the city and into the homestead life. And what does that look like? And how do you peel behind the curtain and see the things that not everybody's talking about on YouTube? We're going to talk about that here today with you guys. So if you're joining us, let us know where you're listening from in the comments. And if you have questions, put them in all caps, and that way we can find them throughout our chat today. The comments are probably the secret sauce to why a live is better than any other video you can watch. Not only because it doesn't require any editing, but because when we're live with you guys, you don't have to wait to get those questions answered. You can just drop them and we will take up any questions that you have. And if we can't answer them, we'll get back to you. So,
look at that.
What are we
See? Day lives.
Yeah.
So day, like live streams in the daytime.
Yeah. So we used to do live streams in the evening. We've switched them to daytime. 1, because we have a fantastic babysitter. And 2, because evening lives kind of drag on. Like, you guys are tired. We're tired. If you are living on your homestead, you are what we call farm tired, because you've been doing chores probably twice a day at that point, and you're ready to just unwind, maybe not get creative. But we're most creative during the daytime. So you get us at our best, and we're happy to share that with you guys. So we've got Pam from Montana and Zodiac Killer from Missouri. Glad you guys are on here. We are going to go through 4 kinds of land, and this is something we talk about in our course, but not everybody's getting in the course at a time that works for you. So we want to bring you some of that content free right here. So we're going to talk about, I don't remember what chapter it is, but it's finding your land. And there are 4 kinds of land that we highlight. And I'm sure there are some other categories that you could create for yourself, but these are 4 that seem to fit our search and then the searches that we've helped a lot of you guys on. And the first one is urban land. This is land.
Wait, hold on. We can't jump in yet.
Yes.
No, we got.
I know what you want to do.
Okay, what do you want to do?
Yes, let me talk about the first.
Kelly's gonna run this thing.
I'm gonna run this thing. So the first is urban land. This is exactly what it sounds like. This is land in an urban location. You're in the city. You could maybe walk to a grocery store or a convenience store, make it easy. The other is rural land, right? These are like the stark opposites. So we would go all the way out to where maybe you don't have a neighbor for dozens of miles, right? And then suburban land, or well, I guess then the fringe, which is more of where we are. We're not super rural, but our community is rural. We're about 10 minutes from a Walmart and an hour from a big box, like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, an hour from a Costco. And then suburban, which is where we came from. So if you're jumping on this for the first time, got a bunch of people joining the chat. So excited you guys are on, because this is really dynamic when we discuss it together. We want to know, where are you guys right now? If you're open to sharing, what type of land are you on? If you're already homesteading, and if you're not, where are you now that you're looking for one of these types of land? What are you most interested in? Put your questions in caps locks, and then we can come back to your questions from our chat. We'll highlight it right here, and we will make sure that we chat through all the things concerning land that you're interested in. So before we get to your questions, we would love to give you a word from our sponsor, United Portable Buildings. This is the company that we use to build this studio that we're in right now. If you've been with us for a little while, you know we have a house that we built out from a shed shell. And then we did it again as a studio that actually turned into a birth room when we had our baby on purpose. And mostly,
accidentally.
mostly what we do in here is bring content to you guys. So this is our studio that doubles as a guest room and is our kind of creation space, like an office maybe you would have at your house. So from little to big, United Portable Buildings is our home base for sheds that we can confidently recommend other people to look for. So if you are in the areas where United Portable Buildings can ship to you, I highly recommend you go ahead to this link that Bo just put in here. It says shedview.group.pub. You see it, the shed to house configurator. And this is why I like to recommend it at the beginning of all our chats is we don't just need to say, hey, buy from these people. They're going to give you this incredible tool. And this is the tool that we used when we were starting to design our next buildings. We took a look at this and said, what does our family need? How do we lay this out? What are bonus rooms that we want? How many bathrooms do we want? And basically you build your shed online with all of your own little details. And yeah, Bo has one that he put together.
No.
Oh, this is the new one.
I just now got a text this morning. You guys, I'm gonna go do a tour of this Laredo full 2-story. I think if we would have known that this was not even available then, we would have done this. And then Everett wouldn't have been like whacking his head because he's too tall.
Well, the number one question, what are we going to do when our kids get big? Well, maybe you consider a shed to house 2-story Laredo from United Portable Buildings. You can build those 2 stories there. You can build a 1-story, something simple just to hold the tools on your homestead. Or as intricate as we've built with, like, I don't know, dozens of electric outlets in this room itself. And it's completely customizable. So if you are even flirting with the idea of building a shed house on your property and having a more affordable alternative form of living versus the expense of building a large house, this is not only really easy and accessible to build online, but when it comes to building it on your property, this goes so quickly. And I would highly recommend it for anyone whose first goal is to get on your property. I love this route. I wouldn't have gone the RV route for anything. I think this is our best route. So United Portable Buildings, thank you guys for sponsoring this. And for all of the audience that are viewing, go check out the shed to house configurator. It will open your eyes and inspire you to this more simple, less stress, more freedom life that we're chatting through on this channel all the time.
Woo. Okay. You ready?
Yeah, let's jump in and say hi to a couple of people.
Okay.
And then remember to put your questions in caps so that we can follow you. And we'll talk about those 4 kinds of land that we think are really broad enough, but also give you some meat to chew on about which one fits you best to move on to your homestead. So we've got June in Georgia. I love that. Alex in Wisconsin. Hey guys. As you're chatting through here, we want you to also connect with each other. Victor in Georgia, glad to see you.
You missed Pam up there.
I already said hi.
You said hi. But I wanted to say you're in Montana, and I gotta know: do you watch all of the Yellowstone shows?
And Victor from Georgia, and
I'm addicted to it. I am
from Massachusetts. Candy from the cold in Massachusetts. We are sorry to say that it is very warm here, like 80s. So I always feel bad at this time of year when it's 80s and it's cold there, versus when I'm kind of regretting that it's still warm at the beginning of our 2 weeks of winter.
But don't feel too bad, because this morning I was out there milking Goldie and I got bit 3 times by flies.
Yeah, that's very frustrating.
Yeah,
the flies do not rest here, right? So Irma in Florida, glad you guys are here. Thank you for joining us and sharing your afternoon with us. Maybe if you're like me and you're drinking your cold cup of coffee from this morning, this gives you a little break in your day just to reconnect with what you're interested in and what you're dreaming toward. So we've talked about the 4 types. Is there one that you want to hit first before all of the others? Like
No, I think you gotta do it in the list that they are.
Yeah. So start with the
I mean, the first type of land is what a lot of people live in some way. It's urban. So I always thought whenever we were doing this that urban would be, so whenever we started dreaming about buying a house, we thought we would buy a small, kind of like, it's called a shotgun home in the heights of Houston. It was just kind of that city life. We were just now engaged and dreaming about getting married, and just where would we live. We never ended up doing that. But honestly, a lot of people, urban is just living in an apartment. It's just like kind of where that is. It's not really owning land, but you could be able, you're wherever you're going to live. Having an apartment, I've learned a lot that most people start in an apartment, and you are able to learn skills of homesteading in that apartment setting. Yeah, if you're in an urban area, you could, and if you have a little bit of a yard, you could have an actual garden, not just in a container garden. But there are benefits of living in that urban area. You have a lot more people. I would be the person to say that grow gardens, not government. That the more packed in you are, 2020 happened, and it could be a little bit weird. So that's not something that I feel like we're going to be doing again. But you can still homestead and learn skills even in an urban area or an apartment.
Yeah, you're always gonna, Bo is always going to hit this like facts. And then I'll usually hit like, why are you even doing it? Right? Like, if you know why you want to homestead, you will do this anywhere. And I think that's a really cool thing that in the last 5 years, certainly since we've been working on this homestead, that even before then, the conversation online about homesteading, right? No one's a boomer sooner right now. No one's running out to just like put their flag in the ground and say, this is mine. This is a return to homesteading. This is a return to traditional, not necessarily just values, but like traditional stewardship of land, traditional skills, right? Canning, preserving food, figuring out how to work sustainably in a community, not just on ourselves prepping with a giant bag of rice in our closet. Like, there's more to this than that, right? There's a mindset and a heart behind it. And if what you have is a desire to steward land well, you can do that by shopping at your farmer's market from actual farmers who are doing this with integrity. You can do that by eating seasonally. What is naturally growing in the ground in your area at this time? A lot of it does surround food. Sourcing your meat ethically from people who are caring about their animals that they're raising. So much of this goes into a healthy habit, and you can do that almost from the moon. You can do that in your apartment.
A lot of people say about that, I have to have land. And being perfectly honest, we're very, very glad and blessed that we have, even 7 acres, which is not a lot, but it was a lot for us.
More than we had.
But I feel like homesteading is a mindset versus what we can talk about later is legacy building.
Yeah.
Those are two different things.
Right.
You can build a legacy without land, but that's kind of like the land legacy that you can give to your children's children. Those are two different things. But homesteading, the marketing term of homesteading, you can homestead anywhere in an apartment. Absolutely.
So things that would help you do that would be like a green stock garden, or something that gives you vertical gardening, an indoor garden with grow lights, aquaponics, those kinds of things that you can do in a smaller, more concentrated space. And obviously you're going to yield that for your family, and maybe even some for your next door neighbor. So I think homesteading in a rural area should never prohibit someone from actually doing these things. And Jess at Roots and Refuge says this all the time, and I'm sure there's been other people who say it too, but I just think it's a good reference, is you can turn your waiting room into a classroom. So if you're desiring, you're watching channels that homestead, that build their land, and you're saying, gosh, I wish I could do that. Don't wait. In fact, if you're waiting to do that, you're going to be 100% miserable, because stripping everything away that you know from the city that is comfortable and convenient does not make going to the boonies any easier. It makes it harder. So using this time to cultivate small step skills growing greens, even microgreens that you can.
You could get like a pet rabbit, and use that rabbit manure for a container garden.
Yeah, there are so many small things that you can do in small spaces that yield dividends in the future. So if you're thinking rural, or if you're thinking urban prohibits you, you don't have to wait for anything. You can get started right now. Canning, preserving, shopping, all of these things can come from this local network.
Yeah. All right, number 2.
So number 2, did you put it on there? Oh, yeah. Okay, so Bo loves to call suburbia.
Click on it. Because it is.
It's so dramatic, you guys. Like, living with him is the height of like, how deeply can I convey my emotions about my disdain for an homeowners association?
Because I personally would rather live, if I ever had to do it again, I would rather live in an urban area than I would the hells of suburbia.
So why don't you break that down, babe?
So it all comes from, you can take it off.
Yeah.
What it all comes from, I believe, came in from whenever I was working I was a video producer at our church, and it was kind of like a smaller mega church. It was a big church, a church of 5,000 members. We currently live in a small town where there's 5,000 residents in our small town. So I remember him saying something, and I can't remember the exact way that he said it, but he was just saying something that he was coming to a conclusion that his kids being in public school in this really affluent suburban area, that everything about that suburban lifestyle where there's a lot of money, where there is a lot, like you can get anything that you want anywhere around you. We had a Costco, we had a Whole Foods, we had a Sprouts, we had an HE, like a local grocery store, like all every kind of goods, food.
Guys. These are the things that I miss now. Yeah, I will say that.
Like you have to have your kids need a car, like everything.
It felt like competition.
It just was this weird bubble. And he was saying, guys, he's a pastor of a big church. He was just kind of speaking out of trying to allow people to know that he was feeling what a lot of people have felt before, of just saying, I a lot of times I want to leave. I just want to leave this area. I want to leave suburbia. I want to leave the country, because I am seeing that if I am not diligently working with my children every single day, that the suburban lifestyle is trying to pull his kids away from him and what he's trying to teach them about God and just values.
I think it's just about like comfort.
Yeah.
Like, where do we run to for comfort? In the suburbs, everything around us was very comfortable, and it challenged us in very few ways. This homesteading thing is not for everyone. And if you're sitting here thinking like, it's not for me, I would say I'm interested in why you're watching a YouTube live on the middle of a Thursday.
It says Homestead, like right there.
So I think curiosity, open-mindedness, not so open your brain falls out, but this is the thing that sparks shifts in your life. And if you're sitting there thinking like, I have 100 things in between me and where I want to be, right? We were there in the suburbs. Bo did not know how to fix a sink. And now he does. He spent a lot of our time before we ever moved practicing these small skills that have made us, I would say, very successful here. Not without failure on the homestead, but set us up to cultivate skills that would be useful here. And now we've been able to practice those and really become very skilled at them. But in the suburbs, it can be easy for that comfort to seem like a hindrance. Something is impossible because, well, where would I work? Well, the best thing about 2020 is so many people learned that they could work from home. We'd been working from home for a really, really long time. And a few of you have asked a couple questions that I think could help. But we camp out on the suburbs because what we notice, even just from the analysis on YouTube is that a lot of you guys are in that same range of age, right? 30s to 40s, maybe even 30 to 50, and you guys are looking toward your next step, or you're becoming dissatisfied. We've seen this in our DMs, like, hey, I want to make this move. I'm in California, or I'm in Washington, or my husband's about to retire from the Army, or I am home and we're just kind of drowning in debt. We want to get out of debt so that we can move to a more simple life. These are all worthy and valid things. And so even if you've been camping on this for a couple of years, those in between things, those things that are looking like roadblocks between you and where you want to get to, might not be as big as you think they are. It might just be a matter of how do we reprioritize what's in our life. And in the suburbs, that was the deepest requirement for us. We were already debt free because we prioritized in the beginning. I don't want to owe money to anybody
besides a mortgage.
Right, besides the mortgage. And then we're able to leverage the house for that sale. That's a whole, we should probably do a whole chat on like, how did we get out of there financially? And then how do we make money here?
Sure.
Because a lot of you guys are asking us that lately. And reprioritizing though also was like, we had a very clear fork in the road. Almost all of our friends were moving out of their small starter houses from when they were first married into a larger house, into a more upscale neighborhood, right? All of our neighborhoods were great, but they were like in the 90s and the 2000s built, and they were moving into these new 2010 houses. And we just had this like, I don't want to do that. I don't want a bigger house. I realize right now, like, my priorities aren't matching with the current of the suburbs that
they were
living
moving into bigger homes.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily bigger to us
Space.
Assets.
Yeah.
So I feel like an asset is something that can give back to you over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one couple, and that was kind of where I was like, oh, so this is possible. They moved from a very small house or maybe an apartment, and they moved into it's called Old Katy, like is an old time part of our old town, and they didn't have an HOA, and they moved onto a 1/4 acre lot, and then it was outside of the city limits, and they were like, "Bo, we could have anything that we want. We could have chickens. We could have some small goats." We
felt like we were hiding our rabbits in our HOA at this point.
Exactly. So let's go. So going back. Most people are going to go the first land that you're going to buy, and probably it's especially if you have kids. I don't know. Most people, if you're going to buy land for the first time, it's going to be in a suburban home, so that you have a front yard and a backyard. What we would always suggest is try to find that home outside of the city limits, or at least where it doesn't have an HOA, because you're not going to get away from the federal regulations. You're not going to get away from state or county or county. It is possible for you to live in a suburban area that is outside of a city limits. That's possible. It is 100% possible for you to buy a home that does not have an HOA, because it is that you have a choice. You are volunteering for another group of people to tell you what you can and cannot do. Because this is where you got to understand this. None of those government regulated, larger government bodies. As the governments get smaller and more localized, here's the deal. For them to survive, they have to do something. And they can't take away from the bigger government. So the state and the county government can't take away from federal government laws. They can only add more laws and more restrictions. So once you're down all the way to an HOA, the only thing they can do is say, how low or high can your grass be? What color can your house be? What kind of roof can you have on your house? Can you have a rain rain collection? Yeah. Or you can or cannot have a certain pet, or you cannot have chickens. Like,
so I get this. Yeah. Like, there's always going to be a pro and a con, right? Two sides to every argument. I do think HOA in the suburb makes sense, right? Most people in the suburbs are using their house as their primary investment. This is the way that you're going to hand wealth down. You're going to build generational wealth in that suburban home. So I am not knocking suburban homes at all. For us to do what we wanted to do, the suburban lot, like we say this all the time, Katy, Texas, was exactly what we wanted until we didn't. So our vision for our family outgrew this 1/8 of an acre lot, 2,000 square foot home that we lived in, where our kids, just the home that we built, did not live on a safe enough street to go run outside on their own. We were limiting our freedom in that. And what was God's mercy absolutely was the timing of how we sold our house and downsized before we ever even moved onto the property. So don't feel like going from an apartment or your very first home out of college into a suburban lot is a bad choice. Not at all. In fact, it was how we were able to fund the very first phase of our homestead. And what we did in that suburban lot was critical for our mindset growth. We got there total like video theater nerds from college. Like we were very fresh into this entrepreneurial gig where Bo was starting to do film work. He just finished working a few years before that at a local camera house in Houston. And then we were working at a church in Katy. So this was our trajectory. The trajectory was the next big house. The trajectory was a raise at our job and more debt so that we could continue to live in the suburbs. That was just the standard that was being set. We didn't have friends who were getting out of debt. Like it was a very rare thing that these little 30-year-olds were standing in front of a room of 5,000 people. Well, I guess it was 2 services of 5,000 people sharing how we got debt free. And it was just discipline. Like that's just what it came down to. But in that lot, Bo learned some woodworking skills. He learned, like, we got power tools, right? And started putting them to work. There was always a project to be done that inched us closer to the skills we were going to need to transition, because we were in the apartment before the house, before the homestead. And that's a slow crawl to get there. So don't knock the suburbs, but if you're in them, know that this is the time to start cultivating those skills, either discipline in your finances or discipline in the time that you're not spending Netflix and binging, and creating a new skill, right? We just did this with our kids. They're like, I'm so bored. I don't know what to do. But they have a deep drive to create their own income. So we got a wood burning kit. And for hours, like 5 hours, these boys just sat out there creating. Like they're both very good at drawing and artistry. So they were taking the skill that they'd cultivated of painting and drawing and put it into this wood burning. They're not sitting in front of the screen to make their life simpler. They're really stepping into it fully. So you might be doing that in your space right now. I want to answer a couple of questions because I think these are helpful, kind of lining up with our discussion right now. So I hope I get your name right. But Anifa says, hey, I'm a mom of 3 in Washington and want to start a homestead. How were you guys able to leave the city life to start the homestead? I think that first part that I just shared is cultivating skills while we were in the suburbs.
Yeah, I mean,
we sold our suburban house.
Well, it's really just the boringest part, honestly. It's not exciting. It is listening to Dave Ramsey. It is listening to him every single day. You can listen to him for free on his podcast, and those his words just start seeping in. And he's a faith believer, so he has it works well. It's all about getting out of debt, and because once you're out of debt, things start happening so much faster. Like you're like, wow, this is amazing. And we started being able to teach other families to do that. So it's getting out of debt and learning how to make more than you spend. A lot of people will say, live off of less than you make. And I think that that's good. Living off of less than you make is where you want to start. But the next skill, like I get hate on this video all the time about, I said, how to buy land with no money. I didn't say how to get free land in this video. But a lot of people comment on there saying like, this is clickbait because you are saying in the title how to get land with no money. I'm like,
because the first thing you say is what?
I say you have to learn how to make money. So
because even once you get here, like, you need to make money.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's not easy to do with no skill.
Yeah. So Anifa, you saying that you're a mom of 3? I don't know if that means you're a single mom. I just say like it's good. It's hard. So, but
I think your finances. Focus on your finances. Where, what is it you're looking for? We began looking for our top priorities. I'm sorry, your back hurts. So our top priorities, and we talk about this. I think we maybe even gave away a free download on this, but if not, just send
50 Homestead Moneymakers.
Yeah. So you can also send us an email and we can chat more there. But this is something that I think is really critical and not a lot of people are talking about. So if you look at your non-negotiables, the things that are the most important to you, we'll talk about, hey, I need to be near a hospital, right? Everybody's family is different. I need to be near my job. I need to be within a certain distance of my community. These are going to be non-negotiable things. We wanted to live in a place with no restrictions. So that was a non-negotiable on the list. And then this took the whole wide world and narrowed it down. I know you can even homestead in other countries. I don't know about it, so I don't talk about it a lot. But people are homesteading all over the world, right? Living off their land, creating a more sustainable life. And I don't mean self-sustaining, but creating a life where sustainability looks like you do some things and your neighbor does some things and you guys share the bounty of all of that. As a mom, I think it's a right and it's a good thing to want less maybe oversight over your kids or over what you do with them. I think that's a totally noble thing. So in the pursuit of you looking for your homestead, start with the things that absolutely must be in place for you to be happy there. We wanted trees, so we added that on the non-negotiables. We did not want open old farmland or a prairie. We wanted a place that was forested. So look at the things that are most important to you. It'll help you narrow down your search. And then begin searching in that area. I like to start with miles because it gives you like a place you can put your finger down on the map. So if you're looking at miles and it's like 60 miles out from the most important heartbeat of your life, ours was we wanted to be within driving distance of, if you're Texas, Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, and Houston, Texas. So we chose Central Texas because all of our family could get to us within a few hours. And that was important to us because they're important to us. That might not be important to you. So it doesn't go on your non-negotiable list. And then from there, begin to look for realtors who are go to that area. And you're going to see billboards of realtors. Don't ask your cousin who's a realtor to find you a property hours and hours away.
Who's a suburban realtor.
Oh, you guys, I'm looking out my window and I'm watching what looks like snow. It's pollen.
I'm sorry.
It's pollen. Sorry, that is a sidetrack, and it is one of the things that drives our family crazy.
So real quick, so you're talking about the distance. Have you already talked about number 3?
Well, no, we're just talking about like how and Anifa was asking, how do I find property, or how did the Brothertons find it?
Okay.
So non-negotiables, and then whittle that down to finding a realtor. Don't just go with someone who looks for like commercial real estate, or someone who looks for your suburban kind of like just another lot. You want somebody who's really skilled at finding land, and that could be a place that already has a building on it. I don't hate that idea. But if you want to go with raw land like we did, which means there's no water, no electric, it's not off grid because we could still tap into those things, but it is undeveloped land. No one has done anything. No one had even put, I think, like deer feeders out here. Like there was nothing. So we developed all of these things. And what it did for us was also wisely increase the value of our property. Because in case we hated this idea of like raising chickens and children, we couldn't drop the children. We would have to drop the chickens, and we wanted to be able to sell that land and put us right side up instead of upside down. So I do think those are valuable things to consider, and let those people, like, give them your non-negotiables. Let that realtor do the work for you. because they're going to know the area you're looking in even better than you are. Ask people if it's an area where you know someone's living, that's doing what you want to do. Ask them who their realtor was. This just happened to us the other day. Like, somebody messaged us and was like, "Hey, who's your realtor?" I'm looking in the Central Texas area, and we're like, "Yeah, this guy does all the rec land in this area, not just our county, but like all over Central Texas, from Wimberley to much further out." So those are the things I recommend when you're finding it. I hope this is helpful, guys. If you've got more questions, make sure you drop them in the comments. I've got about 5 questions to go through, and still 2 more places to chat through. So we've chatted through urban area, like what does it look like to homestead in the urban area, suburban area, and this is where we settled, was the fringe. So I was going to talk about this one last, but I think it's still helpful.
Well, we're
kind of going concentric circles, right?
I think that's what you need to do.
Densely populated, a little bit more open. Now we're looking at the fringe. I think you've got a great description of the fringe.
Well, the fringe is what allowed my wife to leave all the comforts of suburbia.
I gave it a thumbs up.
Because the fringe, and honestly, I think that the fringe is going to be the safest exit strategy. So whenever, this is just smart investment, smart real estate purchasing, you have no idea, if you've never done this full time before, trying to homestead, raise animals, everything, you might not like it. It's very possible.
Homestead Rescue is a real show.
Exactly. Yeah. And even, I bet you there are some of those episodes on that show, Homestead Rescue, that they still quit after their homestead was still rescued. I guarantee you that there is a few of them that said, nope, even this, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going back to the city. So you need to buy land that other people want. And most land, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it still makes it possible. So you're going to find land that has some sort of closeness to a small town. For us, we're about less than 15 minutes away from a Walmart. We can get anything that you could ever want from a Walmart. When we bought this property, it also had a hospital.
It did.
That our town had a hospital. It had an ER hospital.
We've learned that rural healthcare is a challenge, in all rural communities.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that hospital closed down. So that was a bummer. But we used it. I went to the ER whenever we were.
You did use it.
Yeah, whenever we were doing our water line, and I got dehydrated, and I needed 3 bags of IV fluid. There's a story behind that. Maybe for another
There's a story in there somewhere.
Anyway, also, I think.
Well, what does the fringe look like if you had to describe it?
For me, the fringe, usually, it doesn't have to be limited to this, but you're probably going to be looking anywhere around that 5 to 10 acres of land. So you're going to be outside of the city limits. But of course, you're in a county. I don't think that there's land anywhere that you're not inside of the county.
Untouched.
Yeah. The key that I would say is buy land that does not have buy land in a county that does not have any building codes. So what Kelly's talking about is find that circle. I think something that my uncle once did is he actually got a real map, and he got a protractor, like one of those things. And he's like, he just said he found out. And you can just do it with a piece of string and 2 pencils. But basically, he found out the length of miles that he would be willing to go from his main house. And then he just drew a circle. Yeah. And he said, okay, anywhere within that circle is where I'm looking at to buy property. So I forgot where I was going with that.
You were saying this is how you would describe the fringe.
Yeah, the fringe.
You're still in a county, but you're outside city limits. Because inside city limits, there's also a lot more government regulation within a city that blooms.
Yeah.
So what you might have been able to do at one point, you can't do it at another.
And you also have to, in the fringe, you also have to be honest to see if you're going to get annexed. It's possible.
Yeah.
We are, 5 minutes from the actual town. the closest town. So it's possible that we may someday be annexed, but
or we may someday have to fight against that.
But if we were annexed, we would get some stuff that we don't have. So like they were going to have to spend, they would have to spend a lot of money to annex us, because you get a little bit of benefit if you're inside the city. Like we would get a paved road. I just don't think that that's going to happen. It's just we're too far out. And that was part of the strategy to know, hey, what we're going to do.
And the further out, and we'll talk about this in the next number, or the next land option, is the further out you go, the less likelihood of government infringement on the things that you want to do, and availability for unrestricted. But I will say, we do know people who've lived in the fringe, like outside the city limits, inside the county, and they still struggled with deed restriction. So there is research to be done. And I do think, though, like, I'm hoping anyone who's listening isn't looking to just be like, oh my gosh, I bought land. And you like then built a shed and then you put it on there and then you realize you couldn't do that. Like,
you need to.
Can I just invite everyone listening to please be wise?
Well, and all of this is all the basics. So this has nothing to do with like the basics of buying land. You need water, you need access.
Sure.
You don't buy landlocked land. Always get a survey, of course. Like pay for these things. Always get title insurance. Like those are basic stuff that you got to do that. But this is like more outside of that. So another thing that I would say that would be super duper hard for us. We also, in between where we are and that Walmart, is a Tractor Supply. So you're going to have some sort of you're going from suburbia and you're trading the yuppie amenities of having being 5 minutes away from a Costco and a Whole Foods to now you're trading that for life-saving amenities of having a Tractor Supply, of
it's less sexy but more practical.
It really is. Of
somebody put that on a shirt.
I ran out of chicken feed or cow feed or some like alfalfa cubes. I don't want to buy from Tractor Supply, but this will get me until I can get to my better feed. Sure. Oh man, my electric fence broke. I gotta go buy some more line. You can go to Tractor Supply. If we did not have Tractor Supply, we're not sponsored by Tractor Supply, but it would be a lot harder
to enjoy.
Well, but then also I would say the fringe, it's very possible you're going to be 30 to 45 minutes away from a big box store. So you're going to be farther away from a Lowe's or a Home Depot. Yeah. But that kind of gets you cheaper land. So that's where you just have to, you got to figure that out. Suburbia, you're going to be paying a higher price per acre. You're not even going to get an acre most of the time in suburbia. And then you're going to get a little bit of a cheaper rate for the fringe. That price per acre is going to go down a little bit. If you're in the 5 to 10 acre range, you're going to be paying a higher price per acre. Then once you go into the 10 to 20 acres, you're probably going to get a lower cost per acre. Now you can still buy 20 acres in the fringe. We have friends who have that around us. But it kind of, once you get over that, it leads us to number 4. Are you ready for number 4? You want to do comments?
Yeah, I want to do comments, but I also want to say this, I love when you're talking about this, you're considering, it's almost formulaic, even though it's going to be different answers for each person, but considering this circle your uncle drew, right? His radius of his, this is where we're going to look. Then there's also that other part of what's your priority in getting onto your land? Because I think the priority also determines what you want out of this. Because if your priority is man, I really want to get onto some land as quickly as I can, then you might not be looking for the 100 acres because you want to get there more financially. Some of you guys, you got your own money, you're wealth builders, and that's amazing. But I know that a lot of you are like us of 5 to 10 years ago, where we're how do we reprioritize where our finances are going. They were in stocks and they were in like retirement. And we actually pulled the plug on those, put it all into land. And now we're back to that. But that was something that when we were considering, like, yes, we would love 100 acres, but we wanted to get here. And it also led to why we got into a shed to house, because we wanted to get onto the property. We didn't want to live in an RV. So I think those are things to consider. If you're taking notes, I don't know if you guys do that on a live, but even in your own mental notes, considering the things that you will not negotiate, you will not leave off of your list of priorities. And then why do you want to live on there? What do you want to do with this property will help determine, are you living urban, rural? Are you living on the fringe? Are you living in the suburbs? All of those things will be there. Because if you, quite frankly, are allergic to you never want to have chickens. Maybe you go live in the suburbs and you are perfectly happy growing like tons and tons of seasonal produce. I mean, if we had stayed in Houston, we would grow almost as much produce because we had a small lot that we could maintain easily. And our growing, we had this like subtropical weather. We could have grown avocados there. We can't do that here. So there are trade-offs in all of these. I want to come and just say hi to a couple of people, and then let's keep going on. So Wendy Joe, yay, you're catching us live. I love that. We've got Lois here and Tiffany catching us live. Fresh Country Ales. Irma is still here. We love it, Irma.
Victor.
His Spirit Bear Ranch. Yes, Victor, thanks for being here with us. We've got, you guys have awesome questions. Fresh Country Ales is coming from South Africa. Love it. Our bestie, Bert, who is our AI tech, is from South Africa. Yes. And he helped us talk to our cows in a whole new way.
Good girl,
so,
Goldie.
Good girl, Goldie. Oh, Goldie.
I'm a stressed out person. I'm a little anxious.
He is so mellow.
And
Bert
whenever you speak like Bert, it just kind of mellows you out.
It's true. Okay, let's answer this question from Lizette Villanueva. Says, when you said to let a realtor do all the work for you, do you share with them what you desire and then let them look for the properties you're requesting?
Can I go?
Absolutely.
I think what Kelly's probably saying is get the right realtor.
Yes.
And they will be able to do all the work for you.
And yeah, you tell them what you want.
1,000%.
They work for you.
Get a realtor, like what Kelly said, is go look in the area that you are interested in and drive around for a weekend. And you will see
the signs.
You'll see a couple of signs like it is represented by this realtor over and over and over again. What that means is they know the area, they know the land. Don't get your friend from church who said, "Oh, I will buy you a home or a piece of land. I'm a realtor." And then you start making that commitment, and then you feel bad because you don't want to break up with someone who doesn't know how to do their job. I'm not even
kidding. Like, we have seen this over 12 times, guys. Over 12 times. We have seen people look for land. And I am not saying realtors aren't fantastic. We have realtors in my family. I love them. Let them sell your suburban house.
Yes.
But when you're looking for property, you need to work with it. Property is different. You don't care the same about the school districts, most of us. You're not looking to see if you're going to have like the most pristine like purchase of land. What like curb appeal is not the same in a suburban lot as when you're looking for land. It's just different, guys. So find the realtor, right one in that area.
I knew that this was the realtor whenever his headshot was, he was just dirty in the face and he was holding a deer.
Okay, but this is
like he just now shot a deer, and that's what he put on as his professional realtor profile picture. And
Bo fell in love.
Most of the time people would be like, what is this? If in suburbia, you wouldn't buy from this guy. You want someone in a suit and all fancy, or a dress. Like, I don't know.
This is before all the boys on Instagram were putting like fish in their photos. It's not the same thing. But you want someone who understands what you're looking for. And so he was able not only to take us to the first property we were looking at, but as he walked around literally with our children, on a piggyback. Like he picked up one of our boys, threw him over his shoulder, and like
went into the brush.
Literally walked in, you know, his boots up high and jeans tucked in, walked him through the high grass in our property, because that's just what we were looking at. We were not going to drive in someone's Mercedes from house to house.
So here,
this is a different.
This is the last time I'm going to say this, because this is so like is very, very specific. Like it's very important. We didn't have a road. We didn't have a driveway.
Yeah.
He had the 4-wheel drive truck. We were in a soccer mom minivan. He was able to get onto the property that we bought to show us everything. There's no way we would have gotten that feel if we couldn't have gotten into his vehicle, because he knew like he does this. Yeah. Versus we had friends, and if y'all are watching this, we love you guys. We love you, love you, love you if you're watching this. I doubt that you are, but anyway, we were looking at property together at the exact same time. And my buddy was like, hey, will you come and look at this property with me and give me your thoughts? And it was a group of his buddy friends and his dad, and then his realtor showed up, and then the person owning the property.
And us.
Yeah. You were there too. Okay.
Were there.
We all were like dressed and get up ready to do this, to go look at raw land. We were all ready with boots and everything. The realtor that he is hiring to represent him to find a place showed up with high heel boots up to her knees and this little pretty skirt and like in her like very fancy like coupe, I don't know, like car sedan. And she was like, Well, she stayed there. I ain't doing it.
She was at the property to show the property, because that's what you need. You need a realtor to let you into somebody's house. You need a realtor to let you into the property. And it was just a really good picture of what we didn't want to do. We were still looking at properties, but we were mostly looking in our area, nearby the Katy area, that we would spend our weekends just driving to see a 2-acre lot. When we finally found that we were going to look in the Central Texas area, because it was central to all our families, we knew that we really needed to find somebody who knew this area and who was confident in showing us all of our options. So yeah, you can definitely have some like, that's going to be a homestead search fail right there.
Yeah.
So yes, let your realtor know what you're looking for. Just like if we were looking for a house in the suburbs, we'd say, I've got 4 kids. I want at least 3 bedrooms. I want at least 2 bathrooms. I want this much backyard. You would be really specific about what you want. And just because you're building this from scratch, there will be people who catch your vision. We're not the only ones who have ever done this. We're just the ones talking to you today about what you can expect and how to create an experience that isn't seamless. Like, this is not easy, y'all. This is work.
All right, let's do number 4.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Yeah, you just hit that one. Yeah,
I was switching. Yeah.
I think it's up.
Okay, you can click on the thing. The next.
So number 4 is, because we have like 5 more minutes. I want to give enough time to do some questions. So number 4 is the boonies. A lot of y'all would say, I don't want to live in the fringe, because eventually the fringe might become a city.
The suburbs.
I don't want to be around any people. I want to have a mile around my property. I want to live on 100 acres, like all these wants. Sure. If you are this is it. If you have the experience.
Yeah.
Of what is it called? What the Ruth Ann Zim is saying, that you have the privilege.
She shared this. If you're not following Ruth Ann Zimmerman on Instagram, what she said was this, and it is sticking with me like rice to sushi paper, guys. She said, it's come to my knowledge, like I'm understanding this about the community online, that a lot of you did not grow up with the luxury of learning these lessons gently over a lifetime. And it has been glaringly obvious to me, and even motivating to get my kids into the kitchen, into the cleaning, into the skills outside that would pertain outside of homesteading, right? for them to gently learn these skills along the way, because I realized in my busyness growing up as an athlete, as a student, as a military kid who moved around a lot, that my parents were often prioritizing me at that age over the skills that I would need to learn over a lifetime. And it's not like I didn't know how to do the laundry, but right now, Bo and I are learning the skills of cultivating soil. We're making compost tea for the first time, and we're raising our kids, and we're keeping a house, and we're learning to cook from scratch, and we're smoking meat for the first time, and
Yeah.
sourdough, and all these things. But we really want to cultivate these skills, mostly because it makes our life ironically more convenient. I don't have to go to the store to get milk. I have a cow. I know that sounds really weird. You would never have heard me say, "Let's get a cow and bake sourdough" 5 years ago when we lived in a very convenient place to go get raw
But
milk and sourdough.
so the thought with that, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Going to the boonies.
going
It's
to
going
the
to
boonies,
require many more skills.
I would not suggest for people like Kelly and I
Yeah.
to go from city suburban life our entire life,
Skillless
like
life.
to, hey, God lightning bolt in our heads, you're now going to move onto land and sell everything that you own and live in a shed. I would not suggest that you do that in the boonies. You need to be able to get in a car and to go to Tractor Supply and get supplies that you need. You need to have a Walmart that is less than 30, 40 minutes away from you.
A simple way to build community.
Yes, like it's not for a smaller group of
Takes
people.
a special kind of person. It doesn't mean no one should. Just you need to know if you're that kind of person before you do it.
But you're going to get cheaper land in the boonies. So the boonies in my view, I probably am going to want some boonie land in my 50s and 60s. Just letting you know. Because what I want...
You see my enthusiasm?
What I want is I want generational land. I want to give my children's children land, because you can laugh at me.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the two of us. I'm like, can they just get to like age 18?
No, I don't know how affordable land's going to be in the future.
Yeah.
Like if you're, I think land's going to come down in price. I'm looking at everything of what's going on with our economy.
But it'll never be where it was.
Never. It will never be what it was when we bought land in 2015. Like, no way will our land go down that much.
Well, for example, we live on 7 acres. We bought it at 6.4 an acre.
Yeah.
We have purchased our land with the bulk from our house sale, and then began building here with that. So we really do mean, like, there's no reason you can't make these moves. You just need to do them on purpose, and you need to have a focus and a goal. So the boonies is totally doable. You just need to know what you're giving up, and you need to know the challenge. Imagine living in the city and you're going to tote in water, right? Let's just say somebody's toting water in over a nice, convenient little road, and it's going to be paved, and you're going to have lots of options for that. When you get into the boonies, you have far less options, and everything has more obstacles. Like, non-negotiable, I'm going to tell you that straight out. Like, everything in the boonies is more challenging. But a lot of you guys like a challenge, and so you go right ahead. Like, you go right ahead in your 50s and 60s, babe.
Because we would have already had some of the skills to be able to
do it more easily.
Exactly.
So you like a challenge, is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying we now have skills that we actually can do that.
There are no laurels. There is no resting, friends. Although I will say some comments lately have really made me wonder just how lazy we are. Yeah. I think it's been like maybe 2 in the last couple of weeks talking about just how lazy we are. And I'm like, I don't even know how to discuss that word. Okay, so let me hit up a couple of questions here, because I think these are great. So those are the 4 types, right? We've got urban was the first, then suburban, the fringe, and the boonies. And we're kind of working out of concentric circles from population. So we live in Central Texas. This is a great question, Diana. How do we stay cool in the summer?
We're going to do these rapid fire. We have Mr. Cool mini splits.
Yes.
I think any mini split is going to be good. I don't know. We've had some problems with the Mr. Cool, so we have mini splits. They run off of electric. I wish that they weren't electric.
They work really hard, and for us, we are usually on cold or we are on hot. Yeah. There aren't many days here where we can just open windows and cool things that way. So I'll say mini splits are worth looking into. I think that cost-effective way, like energy efficient, they're pretty energy efficient, especially in a small space. But if we build big, we'll probably go HVAC just for the simplicity of not having to maintain them as often.
I think anything we build next will have that.
Okay, so you've heard it here. We've made this marital decision right here in front of you.
I don't want to do it.
Okay, so Carrie asks 2 questions. Are we in our bedroom?
We're not.
We're not. But this is our studio with an unfinished Murphy bed.
I keep on telling Kelly to paint this thing, but look, I haven't even showed you. I'm going to make a video as soon as she paints it. Whoa.
So this is currently being held together with straps from one of our children's toys.
No, just the handle. Just the handle. This thing is great.
So Bo built this box. These on the shelves on the side are just IKEA shelves. The cabinet right here for the bed is hand built. So Bo built this with a pal. And then this kit.
Rockwell.
Yeah, Rockler.
Rockler.
The kit is by Rockler, and we built the Murphy bed. It's awesome.
Look, I can do it with one hand. It's
That's
amazing.
what she said.
What? That's so weird.
Okay, so here's why we built the Murphy bed, because this is our primary office. So primarily it's our office. We also have a lot of food storage. So it's almost like a studio apartment, but if you put maybe like a toaster oven or a very fancy convection oven in here, you would have almost a full kitchen.
IRS, this is 99% our office.
It is always our office.
It is always our office.
So the white boxes are, it's not actually a box. It's like 2 pieces of plywood. We may have a video where we link how we learned how to make it. There are lots of them, but it's a Rockler set for the Murphy bed, and you build the cabinet yourself. Hope that's helpful. Okay. Soldier's Craft asked, do you have a guide to buy and build land? So
I don't know how to do this. Zoom like that? Kelly wants to, we're going to put a quote in there. I just think it's cool to have that. Sure. Okay, so do we have a guide? It'd be cool to have a guide, and I can make one up. I would say more than that, not to tote ourselves, but we do talk about this stuff way more in depth. I'm going to put a link to our Get Off Your Tail and Homestead book. Yes. And then also, it is open. It is now open to enroll.
It is a continual course. So you can sign up for this anytime. There is no more lunch. We're going to make it a permanent part of our menu. So you can sign up for Get Off Your Tail and Homestead course. I think this is a great value for the us of 5 years ago. If you're dreaming on it, or if you need some guidance on how you can get onto your homestead and then create income from it, these are really critical things that we wish people were talking about when we had first begun building toward our homestead, and even once we were on it.
But the book talks about a lot of details on that. It's kind of, the chapter is titled A New Way to Invest, because we have been able to build different kind of value here on our property that the local property tax people don't know about, meaning they don't care that we went from oak trees to fodder trees, but it adds more value to us.
Right. Or like building the pond. Like there are just things.
Well, that's going to add property value for sure.
Yeah. So like some things that when you're here and you're starting to create, like maybe this would be a good sum of this. If you are looking to find out how to get onto your property and if you hated it, or the worst thing in the world should happen and you need to get out of your property, how do you add value intentionally, right? Like if you get onto your property and the first thing you do is put 20 goats on there, no, don't do that. That's how you get on homestead rescue. But maybe if the first thing you do is secure your water in whatever way it's coming in, and you begin to build your homestead from this very simple ground zero out into more established zones, then you get a fruit forest once you have water, right? So you don't lose all the trees. You want to build value into your property the same way. You don't want to go put granite countertops in your entire house and renovate all the bedrooms but leave the kitchen and the bathroom messy, right? Like there are ways to build your property value so that no matter what happens, you're always going to be on top instead of in debt to your property. So I hope that helps. Okay, I just want to land on this because how can we not take this compliment? Thank you so much, Candy-Lyn. And I also really like that this does point to a couple of other things. So you're going to find a lot of our recent videos that are my voice and Bo's hand at work, or projects that we're doing right now. Because we found that the voiceover is an easy way for you to user friendly, come back to this, scrub through it, check and see the things that are how-tos or just the experience that we've gained. And there's going to be tons of links in the description of videos that get you the Rockler kit, that get you to places so that these resources are not gate kept. These aren't things we're trying to put behind the veil. We really do want to peel back layers so that you guys see like good, bad, and ugly, and you don't feel like it's all just this unattainable, beautiful white farmhouse. No, it's dirty, it's messy, it's gritty, and it's worth it. So when we create the course, it's so that we can continue to offer all of this stuff for free. Those courses and things fund our behind the scenes so that we can create projects and share more with you on the channel. So thank you guys. Thank you every time you share and every time you say something kind and every time you're encouraging. I really do think that the world needs a lot more of that. So thank you, Candy-Lyn, and thank you guys for being on here today. If you have questions that we didn't answer, you can email us at bettertogetherlife@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you. Usually we'll try and answer those at least once a week. So if it doesn't get answered right away, keep pursuing it. We want to make sure that we help you guys along the way from your city to your homestead, and we just love being a part of that with you guys. So anything else?
Yeah, just Jen, you just know last comment. It's an easy one to say. We moved on our property in 2018.
Yep.
So that's it.
So we're still going.
I mean, I guess we had rabbits. Go check on our channel. Like, we had rabbits back in suburbia, so in a garden. So
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for being here, guys. Enjoy your weekend. I hope it's amazing, and I hope you get out and get to doing some of the good stuff, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.